Hey, lover girls. I am feeling so called to come on here and talk about this topic because it's one that I have a lot of experience dealing with myself. I see this all the time with my clients. And so I want to talk about jealousy. Not so much jealousy of, oh, this woman, has this in her life and I want that, or this person has this quality and I'm jealous of this quality, but jealousy in connection, jealousy in relationships. And I just made a short on Instagram about this, but I was recently had this argument with my partner, not about jealousy, but about my Pomeranian or our Pomeranians. So my male Pomeranian, whenever we give him a chew stick, a dental stick, if you look at him too long while he has it, he'll start growling at you. And my partner is like, that's unacceptable for my dog to growl at me. Like, I'm going to take it from him. And I'm always like, no, don't take it from him. He's like, he needs to be disciplined. So I got on ChatGPT and I was like, why do dogs growl at their owner when they have a treat? And ChatGPT was like, okay, it's not a malicious thing because it's an animal instinct. So because treats are a high value item to the dog, they're like hold a really high value. They're protective and guarded of it. So that's actually their way of communicating or warning you, back off, this is mine. And I was like, huh. How many times do we as women feel this way when it comes to relationships? And it's really rooted in scarcity thinking because the dog doesn't understand. Like, first of all, I gave it to you and there's a whole bag of them over there. Why would I take it away? To him, was his brain is like resource, valuable resource, guard with my life. And I think that if you grew up a certain way, which many of the people who consume my content did, people that are in my community, like myself, where love wasn't consistent and love was scarce and you weren't always shown love consistently by, one or both parents or whatever. There is this deep belief within you that love can be taken away. And so this protective part, this defense mechanism develops to guard that resource. Because when you weren't freely given love growing up, you are going to fight for it. It's very valuable to you. You want love real bad. There isn't this I always say that people who just grew up and love was just inherent in the home, they didn't have to prove for it. They didn't have to fight for it. It wasn't inconsistent. They don't go around scrounging for it. It isn't this scarce resource to them. They just love themselves because that love was reflected to them their whole life. And so they don't need another person to reflect that back to them. They honor themselves. And if another person isn't behaving in a certain way, they don't try to change that person. They're just like, oh man, that's their issue. And they don't have this scarcity belief around love and that it's, something you have to fight for or prove or grip and claw onto. So they're just able to move along, if something isn't right for them. And I was thinking about one of the other things that ChatGPT said was that the way to get your dog to stop doing this is not by punishing them or taking the treat, because then you're just reinforcing the belief that things can be taken from them. So the medicine for it, or the way to train your dog, is to be in close proximity to them when they growl or whatever, and just over and over show them you're not going to take their treat. So 2 things I want to say about jealousy is, one, you're never going to heal that or integrate that shadow part of you that feels jealousy if you are with an unsafe person. When I say an unsafe person, a man who is emotionally insecure, and he does things, sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle, to get a reaction out of you. And that feeds his ego. In his mind, that keeps you on your toes. That keeps him in a place of control. And beneath all of that is he is probably mirroring your fear of loss, and it's manifesting in his behavior as, let me be in control by making her jealous. And so if you are in a relationship or dating or talking to someone who does subtle little things like, oh, this girl messaged me and said this, or, oh, all these girls are checking me out at this place, or, there's a lot of women that are interested in me, or even engaging in like what could be construed as just friendly behavior towards women. But there's like this, your female intuition picks up on this subtle, flirty energy behind it. That could be them trying to elicit attention from other women to either A, upset you, or B, just feed their own ego if they do it when you're not around. And, if you were to say something about it, if you notice this and you said something about it, you might be met with like, oh, you're so insecure, you're so jealous, you're the problem, I'm just being friendly, that kind of thing. So, that's really like women's intuition. You feel in your soul if that's the energy behind it, and not allowing someone to gaslight you. So I say all that to say that if you are in a relationship with an unsafe person who has their own unmet needs that they're trying to get met in emotionally immature ways, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to heal your jealousy. So if I have clients that are like, oh, I'm so jealous all the time, and then I'm like, okay, well, what are the things, what are the antecedents, what are the things that tend to make you jealous? And they share things like that. I'm like, okay, well, you're not with a safe person. So the first thing I would say there is like, this is someone you need to sit down and have a serious, honest conversation of, this is how this makes me feel. Are there things that I'm doing that make you feel that way? How can we, because sometimes we get into this tit for tat. And so the man does things like this, the woman does things like this, and it's a back and forth. So, every situation is unique, but I would recommend doing an audit of your own behavior. Do I do these little subtle things to get attention or jab at them in return? And have a open, honest conversation, take accountability, let them know exactly how it's making you feel. And if that is met with, brushing you off, oh my God, you're always this way, I'm not listening to this, like can't take any accountability, can't actually engage in the conversation with you, that's a sign. Like that's a sign that this is an emotionally immature person. And if you're working on becoming more emotionally mature and being a match for an emotionally mature partner, this might not be the person for you. And that can be a hard pill to swallow. But, no, I'm not going to say people are perfect, but if you can't take accountability, and not just accountability, but pair accountability with changed behavior, that's going to be a one, and you're doing those things, but your partner refuses. It's going to be hard for you to make progress in the relationship. And so the other side to that is if you are with a safe person and you have been with a lot of unsafe people, those old jealousy wounds can sneak up over innocent things. So these old like suspicions and fears can sneak up. And so it's really important to not react, because you don't want to push a healthy person away by constantly questioning them and interrogating them. Because think about how that energy feels when it's reflected back to you, when you're not doing anything wrong. I know most people listening to this have dated someone where they were doing nothing that was inappropriate, but they were constantly being interrogated by their partner because of their partner's insecurities. And, maybe you reassure them at first, you reassure them again, but it gets to the point where it pushes you away. And so think about how that felt. And you don't want to be that kind of partner if you are in a safe relationship. You want to be the kind of partner who is like, okay, is this about my old fear of betrayal? Is this the fear that I'm still carrying, that the belief that I'm still carrying that love can be taken away, that love is not consistent, that love is scarce, that I have to fight to keep love? Because if so, that's yours to carry and not your partner's burden to always carry. So if you are with a safe person and their behavior is not inappropriate, it's you're the one that's engaging in the toxic behavior if you're constantly interrogating them or expecting them to, share their location or never miss one of your calls or never be late texting you back. Because that's your old fear and old wound, your luggage that you carried into the relationship to then reckon with. And so that takes one, awareness and accountability, and delaying reactions. So when something comes up, so like a common thing I see is a shift in communication. Like, your partner goes somewhere and it's been an hour and you haven't heard from them, or it's been 2 hours and you haven't heard from them. And normally they're pretty consistent with communication. Or you would send a text to check in and they haven't written back yet. And it's like this panic that starts in your chest and you can't focus on anything else. And you have all this anxiety that comes up. A lot of people, when they get into that dysregulated state, they think that the only thing that can regulate or soothe them is their partner. And so they make it their partner. And again, we're talking about a safe person here. They make it their safe partner's responsibility to fix them in a sense. Oh, I get anxious, or you didn't answer, or that made me nervous. That's putting a lot of extra weight and strain on your connection. So what I say to clients in these situations, and what I had to learn to do myself, was to self-soothe in those moments. You never want to be what's the best word for this? You don't want to be a prisoner to other people's reassurance. So you don't want to have to, and what I mean by that is you don't want to have to wait around every time you get triggered for someone else to fix that for you. If you are in a healthy relationship, if you are with a safe person, and if you're with a toxic person and like I said, if you've had these conversations with them, you're trying to do the right thing, you're trying to be healthy and they aren't, you're going to have to reckon with that, because you're not going to be able to do this work by yourself in a relationship with an unsafe person. But if you are with a safe person, you need to pause before you react in these moments. So instead of calling 3 times because you panicked because they didn't text back, or sending all these panicky text messages, how can you soothe yourself in those moments? And if you're saying, oh my God, that feels nearly freaking impossible for me, I understand. I have been there. I have felt like this just unimaginable tightness in the chest, anxiety, where I felt like I was going to crawl out of my skin because something felt off. And what I learned to do was, especially when I met my partner now, because I knew that he was healthy and I wanted to be healthy for him and I wanted to do things right. So I learned that when those feelings would come up, and this was mostly early in the relationship, because over time, as I learned to soothe myself, they proved again and again, this is a safe person, this is a safe person, this is a safe person. So using discernment to be in a relationship with a safe person, and then soothing those old wounds as they come up, will rewire your brain. All those old neural pathways that are fired to panic and seek reassurance every time you get triggered by old wounds, they will actually die off, and new neural pathways around safety will actually build, because that person will prove again that they're safe, they're safe, they're safe. But you don't want to sabotage that safe relationship by constantly needing their reassurance. So it's choose a safe person, and then learn to soothe when your old baggage, your old wounds that are your responsibility come up and are triggered. And so one thing that I used to do that really resonated with me, and it took me a long time to really wrap my head around inner child work. I was kind of like, I don't know about inner child work. That feels foreign to me. But connecting, because it's a part of you. It's a part of you. It's a little girl part of you. And she is so scared that she's going to be left again. She's so scared that she's going to be hurt again. And so hand to skin contact and connecting with her and just telling her, it's okay. I choose you. We're okay no matter what. No matter what happens, we're okay. We don't need somebody to prove to us that we're safe. We don't need love to be reflected to us outside of us. We are always going to be okay. I love you. I choose you. I am here for you no matter what. And it's like this detachment from needing that other person's validation and approval and proof that they're going to always be there. It's like detaching from that need, even if they're a great safe person, you know what I mean? But like letting go of that need and being able to give that to yourself gives you back all of your power, because it's the most frustrating thing about being in that state is being powerless. You feel powerless to the situation. And this happens to women across all ages, across all like socioeconomic status. The most beautiful women you've ever seen in your life, I've seen have this same complaint. They just become someone that they're not when those old abandonment wounds come up. And it's because biologically we are wired to be chosen. It's like when we're born, you need your caregivers to choose you or you'll die. Like you're reliant on them. So you are biologically wired to shift into whatever they need you to be accepted by them and not left out in the cold to die. So it's like it goes back to caveman days. And so it's one of the most core human needs. And that's why. And so if you have attachment trauma, which, I have other videos on this, is like so many different ways for that to develop, then you have this belief somewhere in your subconscious that you have to claw and fight and hold on to love, no matter where it's coming from, because it's almost like your brain equates loss of love with dying. Okay, so it becomes a survival tactic at that point. And so one thing that's really important is to not respond to this person or to not like react to the other person when you're triggered. And when you're triggered, it's when your chest is tight, your anxiety's flaring, your hands are sweaty, your thoughts are racing. You've basically started telling yourself all these like stories of what's happening. Your brain's like, oh, worst case scenario, worst case scenario, worst case scenario. It's like that movie Inside Out, when all the little feelings characters are like peeking in on this room where anxiety's in, and they're like, look, it's the imagination. And they're like, oh my gosh, anxiety, the character anxiety took over the little girl's imagination. And they said, oh my gosh, anxiety is using her imagination against her. And that's what it does. Anxiety hijacks our imagination. And we have these like, especially lover girls, we have these super creative brains. And it's like, oh my God, what are all the terrible things that could be happening? Oh my gosh, this is how you protect yourself, is you think of every bad thing that could be happening right now. And so you have to stop that loop by consciously realizing, okay, I know what this is. This is a protective mechanism that's taking over. So deep breathing, looking around. I mean, like simple things that people don't want to do because it seems like not a sexy solution, but it actually works. It's like, okay, my brain I have no proof of any of these things. No proof. What is true right now? I'm in my room. I'm in my living room. I'm in my house. I'm in my car. I'm safe. Everything's okay. There's no proof that anything's not okay. I'm going to take some big, deep breaths. And so many times when we're in this situation, we want to take these like shallow breaths that hit the chest. So you want to make sure that you're like, pretend there's a balloon in your stomach and you're filling it up with air. And you're like, it's okay. It's okay. I'm safe. I'm safe. Once you bring your body, you orient your body back to safety. Another thing I like, and it seems really simple, is like, if possible, I'll put my feet on the grass, because that's like, there's so much science around grounding. You're bringing yourself back into your body, back into the present moment. Because what you do when you start thinking about worst case scenarios is your brain has transferred over to all these other alternative realities where bad things are happening. And you're not there. You don't have to be there. You can come back to where you actually are in the present moment. Soothe yourself, calm yourself down. Make some people don't like to journal, but like make voice notes, whatever. If there's someone you can reach out to, like my clients will usually tell me, they'll be like, okay, Taylor, I'm in a spiral moment. I'm spiraling out, but I'm bringing myself back. I'm bringing myself back. This is the story because they already know what I'm going to say. This is the story that I'm telling myself right now. This is what I believe to be true. No, there's no evidence of it. And so once you calm yourself down, you'll find that you are in a much better position to not react to that person. And then, in most situations, when you're in a relationship with a safe person, they're going to reach out and be like, oh, hey, yeah, we were watching this game, or we were, I was bowling, or we went over to this person's house and we were doing this. And you're like, oh, okay. And then it gives your brain evidence next time, there's some sort of like break in communication, or you haven't heard from them in an hour or so, or a couple hours, or, whatever it looks like for you. Now, if you don't hear from someone all night, that's a different story. But I'm talking about like when there's nothing actually wrong, but you start to get anxious because there's been a break in the normal pattern. And that anything like that is going to trigger your hypervigilance. So, they tell you like, oh, it was this. And so the next time it happens, you can be like, remember last time? And this is what they were doing, and it was all okay. And I started to get upset, but everything ended up actually being fine. Okay, well then there's evidence that it's probably completely fine this time too. And being with a safe person means that you can continue to have new experiences, or like, okay, so you can continue to experience a trigger and have a different result than you have in the past. Because this usually happens when people have experienced, they have early attachment trauma, but they've also experienced dishonest, unhealthy people, unsafe people. And so new experiences with a safe person and being able to regulate yourself before you react to that safe person, which can sabotage a good relationship, is going to slowly build your brain to where you're like, oh, I don't have to be threatened by this. This doesn't have to be a trigger for me anymore. And then it won't be. So gotta use discernment and be with a safe person, and ask yourself when these triggers come up, is this old wounds and this person hasn't done anything wrong, or is this a real problem? And if this is a real problem for me, how can I calmly communicate what's coming up for me, ask questions, and then see how this person responds to that? Because another thing you don't want to do is shrink yourself if there's a real issue or conversation that needs to be had. Because a lot of times people with a lot of old trauma in relationships, vulnerability becomes a really scary thing. So I've also seen where people will sabotage healthy relationships because they don't want to speak up about what's going on for them. Now, sometimes you speak up and you realize, ooh, okay, this is not a person who has a lot of emotional maturity or is able to take accountability or feedback or whatever. But that's information you need to know, which is all the more reason to be the person who's willing to speak up. Because the sooner that you do that, the sooner you, practice healthy communication in your relationship, the sooner you will get to see, is this a person who is capable of healthy communication? Because most people are bringing their baggage into relationships, and they're getting triggered on both sides. So it's this like, there's this art to it, I believe, of being like, okay, this is mine to regulate myself and calm down because this is just old stuff. Or, this is something that I don't think they did with malicious intent, but it's something that bothered me. So I'm going to talk to them about this. And so it really takes a lot of self-awareness, accountability, and utilizing the tools, utilizing the self-regulation tools instead of relying on the other person to regulate you first. And one of the most important things I tell people is you need to regulate your nervous system and come back down to a baseline before you decide what to do next. So before you decide, is this a problem I need to bring up in my relationship? You need to get back down to a regulated state so you can see the situation with clarity. Because when you are triggered, you don't see anything with clarity. And that's when you can be reactive, and that's when you can act in a way that's not in alignment with your values and the kind of person you want to be. And then you can sabotage a good thing. Because if you want to be with a healthy partner, you need to be a healthy person. You need to have healthy traits. You need to act as a healthy partner yourself, so you're a match for that. If you're interested in hearing more, I have a new masterclass out. It's called Lover Girl Playbook, and you can find it in the comments or, of course, linked on my Instagram page. Bye, guys.